So many mics up here. Have to rearrange a little bit. Well, good morning, everybody. Thank you for being with us today. I'm joined today by Matt Crane, Executive Director of the Colorado County Clerks Association. I'm joined today by Matt Crane, Executive Director of the Colorado County Clerks Association and former Arapahoe County Clerk, as well as Judd Choate, State Elections Director, and Christopher Beal, Deputy Secretary of State for the Department of State. As Secretary of State, my top priority is to ensure all election security protocols are followed and to safeguard Coloradans' right to vote. The goal of my office is to have the best elections in the country. Last week, our office became aware that there was a breach in security protocols at the Mesa County Clerk's office regarding Mesa County's election components. This breach in security protocol has not created an imminent direct security risk to Colorado's elections. It did not occur during an election. Footage, both video and photos, was posted online by a known conspiracy theorist showing the BIOS passwords for Mesa County's voting systems. We know from the timestamp on the video and from other evidence that this sensitive information was filmed and collected during the limited access trusted build installation in Mesa County on May 25th, 2021. A trusted build, which is a routine update to voting equipment done in every county annually, is attended by a very limited number of people for security reasons. Only civil servants from the Colorado Department of State, the voting equipment provider representatives, and select members of the county clerk staff are allowed in the room during the trusted build. All attendees must also be background checked. The collection and dissemination of this information during the trusted build installation violated security protocols and the Department of State's rules governing this process. While the passwords that were leaked can only be used physically at the voting system at Mesa County Clerk's office, should a bad actor have access to the passwords and voting equipment, they could compromise the security of the equipment. In response to the discovery of this breach, I issued an order on August 9th, which was Monday, to the Mesa County Clerk Tina Peters, directing an inspection of voting equipment and production of evidence of the chain of custody, including security video footage, custody logs, and other documents. Clerk Peters did not respond. On August 10th, civil servants with the Secretary of State's office, accompanied at all times by officials from Mesa County, began to inspect voting equipment and other relevant documents. During their inspection, the department staff were in contact with the district attorney and his representatives, who were conducting their own independent investigation. Department staff is continuing to conduct analysis and awaiting additional documents required in the order issued Monday. But at this time, I can report that it appears a week before the trusted build that Mesa County Clerk and Recorder's Office directed Mesa County staff to turn off the video surveillance of their voting equipment. Then on May 25th at the trusted build, Mesa County Clerk and Recorder authorized a non-employee into the trusted build after misleading my office on the person's employment status. At that time, video was taken including shots of the sensitive BIOS passwords specific to Mesa County. Video of those passwords and part of the trusted build process was posted online last week by a known conspiracy theorist. After the video was taken on May 25th, video surveillance of Mesa County's voting equipment was not turned back on until recently. Video surveillance was not continuous and cannot confirm chain of custody of voting equipment and is inconsistent with my department's understanding of the normal course of business in Mesa County. In addition, the chain of custody for multiple ICX stations, which are ballot marking devices, reveal that these pieces of voting equipment were not sealed until 1 to 2 days after the May 25th trusted build installation. These machines must be sealed under Colorado rule and are protected using tamper evidence seals that would indicate if a machine was tampered with. This finding, in conjunction with the lack of video recording and possible access by a non-employee, indicates that the chain of custody for these components cannot be verified. After our physical investigation on Tuesday, the civil servants with my office were unable to confirm that the BIOS settings were not accessed outside of the trusted build process, and we cannot confirm that the BIOS passwords were not used to alter the setting of the machines. The security of Mesa County's voting system components cannot be verified, and chain of custody for the voting system components cannot be verified. Integrity and security of these components cannot be established. Therefore, as Colorado's chief election official, pursuant to Colorado law and rules, I have determined it is necessary to take further action. Today, I have issued an election order to prohibit the use of these voting system components in Mesa County. This means that the voting equipment currently in Mesa County can no longer be used. It is important to note that there is no indication that any other voting system equipment outside of Mesa County is implicated by this incident. Therefore, statewide action is not warranted. Going forward, we will continue to provide support to Mesa County to ensure they can carry out safe and secure elections for their citizens in the upcoming election. In addition, a criminal investigation is being led by the District Attorney, D.A. Rubenstein, and questions regarding that case should be directed to him. Colorado has the best election system in the nation with built-in security redundancies. That's why we are confident that the Mesa County's breach in security protocol did not create an imminent security risk to Colorado's elections. We will continue to conduct business required of our office to provide oversight to ensure the integrity of the state's elections. Thank you for being here. At this time, I will invite Matt Crane, President of the Colorado Clerks Association, to provide remarks, followed by a time for question and answer. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Good morning, everybody. The Colorado County Clerks Association supports the actions taken today by the Colorado Secretary of State. In 2017, election infrastructure was designated by the federal government as critical infrastructure, in part to recognize the importance of these systems and the security around these systems. County election officials are charged with the security of these systems along with the state, and this breach violates that duty and the public trust. As the Secretary noted, it is important to note that this security breach affected only one county here in Colorado. It was a solo, intentional, and selfish act that jeopardized the conduct of and integrity of the elections in Mesa County and affects the confidence of voters throughout the state and the country. We've heard people say that this is a heroic act. To be clear, there is nothing heroic or honorable about what happened in Mesa County. If you want to know who the true heroes are in Colorado elections, it's the other 63 county clerk and recorders and their teams. These men and women go to work every day to ensure accessible, fair, and secure elections for the citizens of their county and the state. They take the time to actually learn our processes, to learn what we do in elections, to learn our laws, and to learn our systems. And they are very careful to speak only truthfully so that people can't spread disinformation, the kind of disinformation that's so eroded public trust in our elections as we've seen over the last 8 months. These men and women, these elected officials, strive each and every day to live up to their oath of office. These are the true election heroes. These are the people that deserve your respect and admiration. Thank you.
Okay, and with that, go ahead, Steve.
What we'll do is we'll open it up now for questions. As Michael mentioned earlier, what we'll do, those of you that are online, please raise your hand. We'll unmute you and call on you. For those in the room, please raise your hand and we will call on you. So Rick, go ahead.
What do you suspect the posting of these passwords was intended to do?
What I can say is that a known conspiracy theorist did post secure information about Colorado's election system, specifically Mesa County's election system. We are seeing a coordinated effort to undermine confidence in elections in the path to suppress the vote nationwide. As to motives and motivation, I think that will be a question best directed to the district attorney as this investigation continues to move forward.
Mark.
There's a few, but I'll start with this one. What's it going to take to recertify these machines, and who is responsible? How much will it cost, and who's responsible for paying for that?
A threefer. To be very clear, these machines will have to be replaced, or Mesa County will have to do a hand count. We are working right now with equipment providers, the election equipment vendor, to ensure that equipment is ready to go. It's a very quick turnaround. Election equipment needs to be on the ground, installed, and tested by August 30th for the upcoming election. Ultimately, it will be up to Mesa County whether they want to replace the equipment. That will be their choice. There is some pieces of equipment required under federal law. That's the accessible voting equipment. So that there's at least 3 that will be required. We're already working with other counties to determine where there are extra pieces of that voting equipment to be able to assist Mesa County. As for the cost, Mesa County will be responsible for the cost. We have been in contact, in discussions with the interim county attorney, and await their decision as to how they want to proceed, and look forward to assisting them through this process.
Just to follow up on that, there has to be a hand count. Do you trust that county to count by hand what you can't verify by, it seems more problematic perhaps.
Well, we need to make sure that insecure, potentially compromised pieces of voting equipment are not being used in the state of Colorado. My job as Secretary of State is to provide the oversight to make sure that our security protocols are in place. I am confident that Mesa County will be up to the task, and we will be there to assist them. In terms of whether there is a hand count or not, I think that is premature. I think ultimately it is up to Mesa County. But the vast majority of counties in the state of Colorado use equipment, and so we look forward to continuing to work with them and to ensure that Mesa County provides safe, secure, and accessible elections to their residents, and I am confident that they will.
Okay, we're going to toggle real quick to our virtual participants. I'm unmuting Charles Ashby. Charles, are you unmuted?
Yes, I am now. Thank you very much, Secretary of State Griswold. So a couple of things, if I may. As you well know, our clerk is in South Dakota right now at this conference, and you sort of, I think Matt sort of addressed this part of it, but I don't know how much of that conference you've been watching. They have been displaying some records that apparently came from Mesa County. I don't know what those records are or where they came from. I don't know if they were taken or legal documents, public documents. So what are your thoughts about that? What are your thoughts about what's being said there? I'm getting lots of email from people saying that I should be reporting that, you know, he's showing all this proof over there, and I'm not seeing anything like that. Are you?
Well, Charles, thank you. Thank you for covering this story so closely. First and foremost, I think it is extremely concerning that an elections official from the state of Colorado is actively working to undermine confidence and spread disinformation about our award-winning voting system. It's not by chance that you hear the refrain over and over that Colorado has the gold system of elections. It's because it's true. We have the best security and access in the nation. As for the allegations at the Pillow Conference, I would say 2 things. We are unable to confirm at this time whether the allegations are true. We are monitoring, and I would suggest further questions go to the district attorney.
Patty? Patty Smith?
Kind of going off the same topic, I was wondering if you could respond to something that Kate said. She said it would be a big deal in our governor and our Secretary of State's crown to take over my office and control the way you vote.
What's that?
That was from Clark Peters at the
big jewel.
A big jewel?
big jewel in our governor and Secretary of State's crown to take over my office and control the way you vote.
Oh, well, I completely disagree with that. I think this is troubling for the entire state of Colorado to have someone in a trusted position, literally trusted to protect democracy, allow this type of situation to occur. To be very clear, Mesa County clerk and recorder allowed a security breach, and by all evidence at this point, assisted it. So that is very much untrue. We do this type of work, and hope we never have to. But of course, as Secretary of State, I will make sure the people of Colorado have their constitutional freedom to vote respected. And I think, the mere fact that we're here with Matt Crane, who was a Republican county clerk and is now executive director of the Clerks Association. By the way, the majority of clerks in the state of Colorado are Republican, show how untrue that statement is. We want to make sure that every eligible voter, Republican, Democrat, and Independent alike, has access to safe and secure elections. That's why we're moving so quickly, because time is of the essence to ensure that Mesa, if it so chooses, has secure, verifiable voting equipment by the upcoming election.
Gabrielle, do you want to?
Will you be using Dominion equipment to replace that current?
Sorry, I just can't hear.
Will you be
Sorry.
using Dominion equipment to replace the?
The current equipment? Ultimately, that decision is up to Mesa County. We will be there to advise the county commissioners if they so choose to want counsel. As mentioned, we've been in conversations since the issuing of the order with the interim county attorney who is advising the commissioner members. So ultimately, that will be their decision.
And then Matt sort of addressed it in his comments, but are you confident in this little one-off issue, or are you worried about other counties' processes to follow this out?
We are confident that this issue pertains specifically to Mesa County. First and foremost, from some of the behavior and some of those facts will be coming out further down the road of this investigation. Remember, we're doing a civil investigation, making sure that the election code is respected, but then there's a criminal investigation happening also. But what I can say is the passwords that were leaked were specific to Mesa County. They are only used in Mesa County. We know exactly when they were taken. We know how they were accessed. And there is no indication whatsoever that this is a problem anywhere else in the state of Colorado.
Okay, we're gonna go online again. AJ Vikings? Can you hear us? AJ?
Hi, yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, thanks for taking the question. Secretary Griswold, first of all, can you identify who this non-employee was? And also, can you help me understand the distinction between election rules and laws in this context? In other words, what laws might have been broken? I know that there's a district attorney involved, and so that's not necessarily your purview, but I'm trying to really understand whether we're talking about rules being broken or laws, actual laws being broken in this situation. Thank you so much.
Sure. Can I respond to that question?
I can, yeah.
Can I respond to that question?
Yes, you can.
Okay. So we believe the quote-unquote employee who was not an employee's name was told to us, Gerald Wood. He was entered into the log by the county clerk's office for the trusted build. There were only 7 people at the trusted build, and for multiple reasons, it looks like he was the extra person added, which was in breach of both rule and for several reasons. Number one, he is not an employee. You have to be an employee to attend these. You also have to be background checked. And the office, the county clerk's office, specifically misled my office in stating that he did comply with the rules. In terms of rules versus law, rulemaking authority is done. Rules are issued to fill in the gaps of the law, to effectuate the law. There are several rules that this situation implicates. Rule 20.3 requires maintenance of security documentation such as seals, chain of custody logs, and access laws. Rule 20.5 specifies that voting systems must be located in a limited access secure area. Rule 20.6 requires the county to take steps to secure voting systems passwords and machine access. Rule 20.15 provides steps that the county must take if any election official learns that these rules have been violated. Rule 20.19 specifies voting systems conditions of use. Rule 21 sets forth requirements for voting system certification. That list goes on. As towards the second part of the question, I believe, in terms of potential criminal law that is violated, that question will have to be directed to the district attorney.
Okay, back in.
Secretary Griswold, I'm wondering if you can say if this Jericho guy was the one who actually filmed or took the images. Do you know that for sure? And if you know what any of his motivations were, and if Secretary Peters was responsible herself specifically for allowing this guy to get into the
What is the last question?
If Secretary, or if
Clerk Peters.
was responsible for allowing this guy to get in, or someone else allowed him to get in.
So there's several reasons why we believe it was this Mr. Gerald Wood. First and foremost, we have documentation that he swiped into the room on that day. He did not swipe in subsequent, according to the documents we have at this point. We know that he was not an employee. We have confirmation from Mesa County on that. We know that from the footage that was uploaded, the date of the footage is the same date of the trusted build. We know from the questions being asked that it is very unlikely that it is anyone except him, both for the voices and the questions being asked. Any other questions along those lines will have to be directed to the district attorney. In terms of your third question, I can't comment on this at this time. I can just tell you that the Mesa County Clerk and Recorder's Office ordered Mesa County to turn off video surveillance. We do not have chain of custody for the ICX machines. Those are the machines which you can vote on for 2 days after the trusted build, and some of the other irregularities that I mentioned.
Okay, we're going to go back to our virtual participants. Thomas Ferguson.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
We can.
Oh, great. Thanks so much, y'all, for taking my question. Earlier in your address, you alluded to more analysis and documents that need to be go over. I was curious if you could provide any more details on how your investigation is going to be going forward from this point. Thank you.
Yeah, so if you look at the election order I issued on Monday, it outlines various things that the clerk and recorder had to do. Part one was allowing our civil servants to update the BIOS passwords. Part two was video surveillance and other documentation and a physical inspection of the voting equipment. If you go to part three requires communication both inside the office and outside of the office about the trusted build, about various things related to the trusted build and voting equipment. It also requests verification of employment, job titles, and background check verification from the members of Mesa County that were in that secure upgrade. So we continue to await some of the information. Like I mentioned before, the county clerk has not communicated at all with us. At this point, all communication that we have had from Mesa County has been from the interim county attorney, who has been just great to work with to this point, and the district attorney. So we are still awaiting documentation and background, but I think the important thing to focus on in terms of our jurisdiction is that we are focused on making sure that Mesa County has election equipment and election protocols that follows the state protocol for security. That's why I have already made the decision that we will prohibit use of voting equipment there. And our main goal right now is to work with Mesa County to make sure that they are supported in administering the upcoming election.
Rick, go ahead.
What do you know about this non-employee who is in this session as far as his background and reason for wanting to be there? And secondly, given all you have said this morning, should the clerk of courts in Mesa County step down or be removed from office?
What I can say is that we have confirmation from Mesa County that Gerald Wood was not an employee, while our office was specifically told he was, and that he went through the requirements of what has to happen to be in that room during the trusted build. The requirements to be in that room are you have to be a representative of my office, the voting equipment vendor, or the county clerk, and you have to go through a background check. So we know that he was not an employee. At this time, that is all we know. I do not have further comment about motivation. And the only thing I can say, considering the active investigation that is ongoing, is that I think it's a shame. I think it's just really horrible for the state of Colorado to have an elected elections official knowingly allow a breach of security and also spread disinformation.
Should she resign?
I can't comment on that.
Okay, again, we're going to go to Charles Ashby. online. Charles, can you hear us? Charles, are you there?
Yes. Yes, thank you. I apologize. You should have asked this the first time when I had a bite of the apple. So given what you all have said about Tina Peters, can you trust her to run any more elections? She's up for re-election next year. She's facing a primary challenge next June. We have obviously an election this fall. Can you trust her to run another election, and are you prepared? I know you don't have the authority to remove her, but you do have the authority to take over the elections. Are you prepared to do that, and do you trust her?
Charles, our investigation, as well as the criminal investigation, is ongoing. We look forward to assisting Mesa County to ensure that there are safe, secure, and accessible elections that comply with both Colorado law and election rules. And we will make sure that we have great elections for Mesa.
Marshall?
Before I ask my question, I'd like Matt to address Rick's question of should Mesa County Clerk Tina Peters resign?
I think that we need to let everything play out, and ultimately, I think this is a decision for the people of Mesa County, the best way to move forward. But until everything's done, I think it's premature to talk resignation or anything else. Let's see what happens with this continued investigation, with the DA's investigation, and then ultimately, it's up to the people in Mesa County to decide how to move forward.
To the investigation from the office, a quick one well, you let me have a 3 for last time.
You only get 1 3
Is
for
there
Marshall.
anything hard drive that you're investigating that there should be concern about?
All the voting equipment that we are aware of was accounted for in the physical inspection. As to the allegations that are happening at the Pillow Symposium, we do not have confirmation whether those allegations are true or not. And we have no reason to believe they are, but we are monitoring.
And selfishly, you know about this, it seems, because of the blog, unless I misunderstand. Have you checked with every other county to make sure that that equipment is still certified the appropriate way?
We have no reason to believe at all that this is a widespread issue. There is multiple reasons as to that, some of which I cannot comment on because of the criminal investigation. What I can say is that we had some red flags go up, given some of the questions from Mesa County Clerk around the trusted build. Then an additional mystery person was added to the roster. The elections community, as you know, is very small in the state of Colorado. Many of the elections officials have literally worked with each other for decades. We have no reason to believe that this is anywhere else. And I just really want to underline a couple things. The security breach that happened with these specific passwords, those passwords can only be used at a physical piece of voting equipment in Mesa County. I think it's also noteworthy that we have all these protocols in place because no one has the key to the castle. There are physical keys, there are logs, there are dual passwords, there's all different types of things to make sure that we maintain security. And of course, as the election process starts, the actual election starts, you all know that we have bipartisan risk limiting audits. We verify with bipartisan teams the pieces of voting equipment, the ballot marking devices. So one of the reasons that we are considered so secure is because of the myriad of security protocol we do have in place.
Okay, we're only time for a few more. Patty, go ahead.
I don't kind of mention that the election community is small. I guess I'm wondering why did it take several months for someone to kind of realize that this mystery person shouldn't have been here?
County clerks are elected officials, and with elected officials, we assume elected officials will follow the law and carry out their duties. The duties of election officials is to run elections in congruence with state law and state rule. We were alerted to this security breach because it was uploaded last week. And we've quickly taken action so that Mesa County can make the decision whether to replace their voting equipment for the upcoming election.
Okay, we're going to go to Bente Brooklyn. Bente, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can, thanks. Just confirming that the people that were, the 7 people that were in the room during this security breach, it was state employees, Dominion employees, county employees, and then Gerald Wood, is that right?
That is correct.
Confirming, what you're alleging he did with that information.
We know that the information was filmed during the trusted build on May 25th, and we know that that information was posted by an extreme conspiracy theorist last week.
Jesse.
Mr. Crane, I wonder if you can address comments that Tina Peters made about you at the Pillow Conference, as we're calling it. She basically said that you were asking her to kind of tamp down the baseless allegations about the 2020 election. I guess broadly, I'm sure all the reporters here reporting on this are hearing from a lot of people who are saying that we should believe Tina Peters and not Clerk Griswold. As a Republican, I'm wondering if you can kind of speak to that fact and maybe just the broader. I guess this misinformation that's kind of maybe read what happened here in Mesa County.
Sure. Thanks for that question. I did hear what Clerk Peters said at the symposium about our conversation in January. Unfortunately, what she relayed was incomplete at best, and she knows that. She put something very irresponsible out on Twitter. One of the things we do as election officials, one of the things that we take very seriously, especially at the county level, is to make sure that all members of our community can look at us as the trusted voice for elections. So we always tell people, we always coach our members, stay away from politics on social media, make sure that you're not, getting too engaged to where if somebody looks at you, they're gonna think they can't trust you just because of the political party you belong to. It's very important that we maintain that nonpartisan stature. So she posted something on Twitter from her personal page that was extremely reckless. It was a perfect example of malinformation, meaning you take something that is true and then you imply or build a narrative that's not true. So she put on there that she posted on there something to the effect about ballots can be run through the system twice, as if that's some kind of flaw with the system, some kind of issue. What she didn't talk about was that's every voting system. It's not just Dominion. And you need to have the ability to be able to do that. For instance, let's say you have a batch that's going through the scanner and it jams. You have to back out that batch and rerun all the ballots in that batch again. So of course, through the conduct of an election, there may be a reason why you have to scan a ballot back. It's not fraud. You're not trying to, stuff the ballot box. There's actual reasons why you may have to run a ballot twice. So I called Tina. It was one of the first things I did when I was hired in January. And I said, hey, listen, I understand you have questions about the elections, but when she said that I just sat there and didn't respond, that's an absolute lie. She knows that. I told her, I said, look, as election officials, we have to be the grown-ups in the room. So even if you have concerns about things happening in other states, anything that you put out there can be spun by people that we know were spreading disinformation and lying about the election. So when you put out there, the ballots can be run through twice without providing additional context of why and the security processes we have in place to see if somebody were to do something nefarious, running ballots through twice, how that would be caught here in Colorado through our chain of custody and through our accounting that we do each and every day during the election. So, the purpose of the call was to advise her to be smarter about her comments. As an election official, she has to be even that much more careful so as not to erode public trust. And unfortunately, standing here today, I wish that was the extent of it, but, obviously the damage done to public trust by her far exceeds anything that she put on Twitter that day.
Okay, we're running out of time. We got time for just a couple more. Gabrielle?
I just have a quick clarifying question. When it comes to the extreme conspiracy theory of who say that there's was it wrong, what's the
What I can say is it was posted, and this is public information, to a handle that I believe was Code Monkey Z. And I think that the rest has been connected, but I cannot confirm that myself.
Okay, one last time to our virtual group. Faith Miller, can you hear us?
Yes, hi. Secretary Griswold, in light of these allegations, how can Coloradans be sure that past elections run by Clerk Peters were secure? Thanks.
Well, thank you for the question. We have multiple redundancies built into election systems. And to be very clear, this breach in security protocol did not affect an election. and it will not affect an election. So for example, we keep the number of participants in that trusted build, the upgrade of voting equipment, to a very small number require background checks. We make sure that no one person, including the clerk and recorder themselves, has the key to the entire castle. There's built-in redundancies, multiple passwords, encryption, there's a whole host of things, sealing. There's literally seal-proof, tamper-proof seals on pieces of voting equipment. And then we test the equipment when the election, before the election, and then of course during the election, including the tabulation machines, the ballot marking devices. We do bipartisan risk limiting audits. We do signature verification. So I think the number one message to say is that we are considered the safest state in which to cast a ballot, including by Donald Trump's former DHS Secretary, Kirstjen Nielsen, because we focus so much on both physical and cybersecurity. I do want to say that, I do have faith in our county clerks. They do a great job for the state of Colorado, and I just want to point out some of the heroics. Last year, during COVID, all of us were going through trials, right? For me, my mom was taking care of COVID patients exclusively for the first several months of COVID, when there was PPE shortages. There were fires. There were people whose kids were getting laid off. People were getting sick. But the election officials in my office and at the counties really did a historic act. We ended up having more voters cast a ballot in the middle of a pandemic than ever before in any election in our nation's history. And by the way, we did it all while assisting other states expand vote by mail rapidly to make sure that every eligible voter in the nation could have access to safe voting during a pandemic. And just to highlight two of the county clerks, Grand County Clerk Sarah Rosen literally rushed into a fire zone to save ballots in 2020. The Gunnison County Clerk's office, after the election physically took place, but at the end of the election, every single one of her election workers was hospitalized with COVID-19. The clerk literally was let out of the hospital and went to the county clerk's office to close the election for the state of Colorado, to finish up that risk limiting audit and close the election. The county clerks do the most of the time a great job, and I think it's important to contextualize what is happening across the nation. Across the nation, we are seeing a coordinated effort to undermine democracy and suppress the right to vote. There have been over 400 bills introduced in 47 states. They've passed already in 1/3 of states. There are attacks on confidence, such as what is happening right now to fraudulent audits to undermine Americans' faith. We have seen the removal of some election workers from election boards in Georgia. We have seen authority stripped from secretaries of state on both sides of the aisle after overseeing the most secure election in American history, with record turnout among both Democrats and Republicans. So I think it's important to contextualize that. And here in the state of Colorado, we continue to be the beacon of hope for the nation. Last election, even with misinformation coming from the highest office in the land, 92% of Republican voters chose to cast a mail ballot. That's with weeks of early voting and election day voting and increased in-person voting access. This year, this legislative session, although we did have to stop 5 bills to suppress the vote, we passed multiple pieces of legislation, every single one of them with bipartisan support, to make it easier for Coloradans to register to vote, to increase election security grants to the counties, to support Coloradans that speak languages other than English. I have prohibited the use of fake audits. We are now doing everything we can to ensure that Mesa County residents have safe, secure elections. So as long as I am Secretary of State, I will fight for the voters of Colorado. We will not allow Colorado or our election system to be used as a tool to undermine confidence to set the road for voter suppression. So overall, I'm just very proud of election officials from my office and in the counties, because they really go above and beyond for the people of Colorado to produce literally award-winning elections.
Okay, that's our time today. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
I may sound ignorant, but what is a trust build?
A trusted build? No, that's okay. Do you guys want to hear this answer? So, okay, last question, Steve. Sorry. The question is, what is a trusted build? The trusted build happens every year, and it's the updating of voting equipment. So just like, you know, you're supposed to on your computer run those updates, as vulnerabilities become apparent or just as things shift with the voting equipment, we update all that equipment every year. So this has been happening, gosh, decades, since the 90s. For as long as we've had voting systems. It is physically done by civil servants in this office. Those civil servants have been with this office longer than I have. So it's the same process that has occurred under Secretary Williams and predecessors. So it's the updating of voting equipment.
And that's certified. It's a certified process. Each version of that is certified by an outside agency.
Yeah, so what our wonderful elections director is saying, that each upgrade is certified under federal and Colorado law. So as, you know, time continues, what we need to have in voting equipment evolves.
Thank you, that's very helpful.
Okay, thank you. Thank you all for being here.